So in this video, we're going to assume that you're a bigwig and you're buying a really big, really expensive house. I believe if this is your category, you know what a jumbo loan is. I'm sitting here with Nick Pakulla. He's my recommended lender here in the area. And Nick, explain the difference between, just tell us what a jumbo loan is.
Yeah.
Most people aren't really doing jumbo loans, but
Right.
where does that come into play? What does that mean?
Jumbo really, I think, is just a category definition of loans. So you have FHA, VA, you have conventional, and then the government comes out based on MSAs, statistical areas, Baltimore, DC, different areas depending on where you're in the country, but they come out with a maximum limit based on average home price in that area. So for our area here in Howard County, the conforming, meaning conventional loan limit is $517,500 as of 2018. They do change annually. Anything above that $517,500, you wouldn't be able to get a conventional loan.
And quickly, $517,500 is not the sales price.
Yep.
It's what your actual loan is. So
Correct.
so it's $517,500 plus whatever my
Down payment
is going to be on the
Exactly.
house.
And
that's how I get to my sales price.
And there's ways to not get into jumbo. You could do a second mortgage.
Yeah, but generically, that's how I get
Exactly.
to my sales price.
Right.
So if I'm buying, and that means I'm buying a $700,000 home, right?
Right.
I got 102, almost 200 and change
Yeah.
to work with. So maybe I'm buying a $900,000 home,
Right.
or $1 million home. So I'm
Yep.
not going to be able to go down all the way down to 517. I don't have
Right.
$500,000 sitting in my bank account.
Sure.
So that's where this
Yeah.
jumbo program comes into play.
And I would call jumbo loans they're kind of, also you could call them portfolio loans, meaning they're not readily traded on the secondary market like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans. They set the rules, banks follow them, they can trade them on the secondary market. Portfolio, every bank's going to have its own little niche or its own rules, definitely more unique bank to bank. So again, anything above the conforming loan limit in the county is jumbo. Different rules, usually more strict down payment requirements, more strict credit requirements, more in-depth underwriting if you're self-employed, just more complex appraisal process, sometimes two appraisals. It just depends on the loan limit. But basically, the bank is protecting itself because they don't have the protections of FHA or Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. They have to come up with their own set of guidelines, and that's.
And when you call it a portfolio loan, is your bank holding on to that loan? Is it their own portfolio, their own money? They're not selling it later. And when you talk about selling on the secondary market, you're packaging a bunch of different loans together, and the big banks are usually buying those, right?
Big banks or Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac directly, and then they ultimately sell a bond that people can invest in the stock market directly.
Too much information. We don't understand that.
Yeah.
So let's go back to selling the mortgages. I take a mortgage out
Yep.
with a small lender. That guy,
a jumbo.
Maybe let's just do normal for a second.
Yep.
That guy sends me my invoice on a monthly basis, and maybe I get one, but then all of a sudden I get a letter that says,
Yeah.
but my new bank is Bank of America.
Right.
Was my loan just sold on the secondary market, and that's
Yes.
why Bank of America is now
Yep.
collecting the money?
Yeah, so there's two levels of sale, I guess. There's one who's servicing your loan, and there's two who's backing the loan at the end, which usually is Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac on a conventional loan. So Bank of America might have bought the loan. They could hold it on their books, but they could also transfer it back to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and still collect the payments. So there's a little tricky, but most people are concerned about who am I making my payment to, and that's typically if your loan gets transferred. The smaller banks can't keep all this capital on their books, so what they do is they securitize it through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and then ultimately any bank that wants to service on behalf of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac makes money collecting makes fee income collecting it and then passing along the money, or they could hold it on their books. So to go
back to jumbo and portfolio, that whole sales process most of the time doesn't take place.
Sure. There are jumbo investors that say, Bank A could go meet with a large bank that wants to take on jumbo clients and come up with their own rules and their own mechanism to do that. So it could be transferred as well, but it just depends. There's many more versions of jumbo depending on the bank.
And to wrap that up, all of this means, in summary, you're financing more money. It's a little bit harder and a little bit more strict.
Right.
Are your interest rates changing because you're financing more money?
Sometimes no, sometimes yes. It depends. They jumbo rates kind of move with the market as well as a whole, but again, these are banks that are individually making their rules, so they could come up with really any product that they wanted and publish it. They just have to obviously be in the business of not losing money. So
sure.
Generally, historically, I think it just depends on where we are in the market.
And everybody out there has a jumbo product, right? So it's still a competitive market where you're getting competitive rates, where you can go find...
I would say there could be a bank that just does FHA or VA, but in general, most banks, at least in our area, it's a higher cost area, have outlets for jumbo mortgages as well. But it's not as boilerplate as, say, a conventional loan.
Yep. Well, hope that makes sense on jumbos. Sounds a little bit confusing. But hopefully it makes sense as to what you're getting into as you're buying more expensive homes, as you're getting above the loan limits in your county. If you don't know your loan limit in your county, I'm sure that you can just Google that and find that pretty quickly.